All right, I'm going to show you a process called completing the square. It's like an equation solving technique, but what we're going to be using it for is I'm going to show you how to take something that's in standard form and how to convert it to vertex form by this process called completing the square. Okay, it's going to be some algebra manipulation, some tricks to take this and turn it into that. Like you already know how to go from here to this. And that's just by doing, x plus 7 times x plus 7, working it out, actually multiplying it all out. But before I get to that, I need to show you what a perfect square trinomial is. So these two right here, these are perfect square trinomials, and that's because of the way that they factor. Like if we were trying to factor this, we would, set up two sets of parentheses. It would be x and an x. And then you would find two numbers that multiply to 9 and add up to 6. So it would be 3 and 3. And they would both be positives. Okay. So it'd be x plus 3, and that would multiply back out to this original. So because you have a repeat factor, that's what makes these special. X plus 3 will factor into, or it will become x plus 3 all squared. And that's the point. That's what's so special about these. And same for this one. If you were to factor this guy, two numbers that multiply to 100 and add up to 20, that would be 10 and 10. So it would have to be like a x minus 10 here, and then another x minus 10 there, which will end up becoming x minus 10 all squared. So a couple of things that are important that you need to keep in the back of your mind. I don't know if you need to write this down, but if you take the linear term, which is this 6x or this 20x, if you cut it in half and then square it, that will equal the constant term, which is the 9. So if you take the 6 and you cut that in half, you get 3, and then 3 to the second power is equal to 9. Okay. Half of 20 is 10, and then if you do 10 to the second power, you get 100. Okay. The other thing that's sort of special, you really won't see much of it right now. You'll see it later, I guess, but is if you cut this in half, the linear term, that's the number that shows up over here. So half of 6 is 3. Half of 20 is 10. That'll be helpful for later, but not so helpful right now. All right, let me show you how to convert from this to this. Okay. It's a weird process, and if you want to write down all the notes, zoom in for a second. You can pause and you can write down all this stuff, but I'm not going to be like I'm not going to write all that down. I typed it once, and that's all I'm going to do is just type it once. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate this 18 from the rest of the expression. So I'm going to write x squared plus 14x. I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap and put a minus 18 there. All right, what I want to do is I'm going to add a special number here. What am I going to add here? Well, let me take half of this and then square it. Half of 14 is 7. 7 squared is 49. All right, I'm going to add a 49 here. And since I want to preserve this thing, I don't want to change the expression. I can't just go around adding 49. If I add 49, I also need to take away 49. And so I'm going to do that after the 18. Okay. So it's I'm not actually adding a number to this thing that changes it. I added and I took away. Now, the reason I did that, the reason I added a 49 was so that these three terms here are going to form a perfect square. All right, they're going to factor in a nice way. X and X, and then I want two numbers that multiply to 49, and they're going to add up to 14. 7 and 7. And they're both positive. Cool. Okay, that's nice. And then with these two, I'm just going to combine those, and that's where my negative 67 is coming from. So this is my answer. I'm going to have x plus 7 all squared, and then minus 67. That's what I was trying to get to. I wanted to go from standard form into vertex form. Okay? Do you have any questions? If you do, you should email me or write it down and then ask me when you get to class. Let's do another one here. This one I'm going to do x squared minus 30x plus 2. So it goes, you're going to separate the 2 from the rest of it. X squared minus 30x plus 2. And then I'm going to add a special number here. To get that number, I'm going to take half of this and then square that. So half of the 30, and then I'm going to square that. So that's 15, and then if you do 15 times 15, you're going to get 225. Okay. So notice this is always going to be a positive number, and that's because you're squaring it. So if you add 225 here, I need to take away 225 right after. And then these three terms here are going to factor. I need something that multiplies to 225 and adds up to 30. So it's going to be 15 and 15. That multiplies to 225 and adds up to 30. But if you're struggling to figure out what the numbers are, when we're doing this, we designed this to be a perfect square trinomial. And remember how half the linear term is what shows up in the parentheses? So like half of 6 is 3. That's what's going to be the case here. Half of 30 is 15. Same signs, they're both negative. 2 minus 225 is negative 223. And then we're going to have x minus 15, quantity squared, minus 223. Cool. All right, that's it for this one. Next video, I will show you how to solve an equation by completing the square.